The great hall of the Galactic Council sparkled under the light of 3 artificial suns. Its crystal walls reached up into the darkness of space, making everyone inside feel small. Everyone except the Dominion representatives, who never felt small about anything. Admiral James Walker stood straight and proud in his blue uniform as he watched the massive display screen. It showed the pride of Earth's fleet, 5 ships floating against the backdrop of stars. He knew what was coming. He had seen that look in alien eyes before. The laughter started with a snort from one of the Dominion delegates. Then it spread like a wave through the hall. Even the usually quiet plant people of the green worlds were shaking their leaf-covered heads. "These are your warships?" asked High Commander Krell of the Dominion. His massive frame shook with barely contained amusement. "They look like escape pods that got lost from their mothership." Walker kept his face calm, though his hand tightened on the display controls. The Dominion ships in orbit above them were each the size of small cities. Next to them, the human vessels looked like toys. But Walker knew better. He knew what those toys could do. "The Earth Defense Fleet may be smaller than what you're used to," Walker said, his voice steady. "But size isn't everything in space combat." This brought another round of laughter. Council Speaker Bay, a tall figure with silver skin, raised a hand for quiet. "Admiral Walker," she said, her tone gentle but dismissive, "surely you understand our concern. The smallest Dominion frigate is 4 times the size of your largest vessel. How could you possibly defend your colonies with such limited resources?" Walker tried to explain. He talked about Earth's advances in engine design, about their revolutionary shield systems, about the benefits of smaller, more agile ships. But he could see in their eyes that they weren't really listening. To them, bigger meant better. Always had, always would. "Perhaps," said Commander Krell, standing to his full height, "your people would benefit from Dominion protection. Our fleet could easily patrol your sectors, for a reasonable fee, of course." His smile showed too many teeth. "That won't be necessary," Walker replied, keeping his tone polite. "Earth's fleet is more than capable of defending human space." The council members exchanged looks. Some seemed concerned, others amused. Speaker Bay consulted her glowing datapad, then looked up with what seemed like genuine regret. "Admiral Walker, while we appreciate Earth's petition for full council membership, we have certain standards that must be met. Military capability is one of them. We simply cannot accept a civilization that cannot properly defend itself or contribute to the collective defense of council space." Walker felt his jaw tighten. "With all due respect, Speaker Bay, you haven't seen what our ships can do. And we hopefully won't have to," Commander Krell cut in. "The galaxy is a dangerous place for developing civilizations. You would do well to accept help when it's offered." Was that a threat? Walker studied Krell's face, noting the slight smirk, the predatory gleam in his eyes. "Yes, definitely a threat." The council session ended soon after. As Walker walked back to his ship, he heard the whispers and chuckles following him. Let them laugh, he thought. Let them underestimate humanity. It wouldn't be the first time. Back on his command ship, the Swift Justice, Walker found a message waiting from Earth Command. He read it twice, his frown deepening. Dominion ships had been spotted near the outer colonies, their numbers growing. They were being helpful, they said, running routine patrols. Walker looked out his viewport at the massive Dominion dreadnoughts floating nearby. They were impressive, he had to admit, like mountains floating in space, but he knew something they didn't. Sometimes the mountain was beaten by the river, wearing it down drop by drop until it crumbled. Send a message to all fleet commanders, he told his communications officer. Tell them to stay alert but not to engage. If the Dominion wants to underestimate us, let them. They'll learn soon enough. As his ship broke orbit, Walker watched the Dominion vessels fade into the distance. They thought humanity was weak. They thought Earth's fleet was a joke. But Walker knew the truth. Sometimes the best surprises came in small packages. and the Dominion was in for one hell of a surprise. Intelligence Officer Kate Miller stared at her data screens until her eyes hurt. Something wasn't right. The Dominion ships had been moving in strange patterns for the past 3 months. They called them patrol routes, but Miller knew better. She had spent too many years studying alien fleet movements to be fooled. "Computer, show me the Dominion fleet positions from last week," she said, rubbing her tired eyes. The screen lit up with dozens of red dots, each representing a massive Dominion warship. "Now overlay this week's positions." The pattern jumped out at her immediately. The Dominion ships were slowly boxing in the human colonies, like a net closing in on its prey. They were being careful about it, moving only a few ships at a time to avoid attention. But the strategy was clear now. "Get me Admiral Walker," she said into her comm unit. Priority 1. While she waited, Miller pulled up more data. The Dominion's peaceful patrols had cut off 3 major trade routes to Earth's outer colonies. They claimed they were protecting human ships from pirates, but no pirate attacks had been reported in those sectors for years. Walker's face appeared on her screen, looking as tired as she felt. "What have you found, Miller?" "It's worse than we thought, sir," she said, sending him the fleet movement data. "They're not just patrolling. They're positioning themselves for an invasion." Walker's face darkened as he studied the data. "They're using our own council rejection against us," he said, making it look like they're just protecting the developing civilization. "There's more," Miller added. "I intercepted some encrypted communications between their ships. My translation program just finished decoding them." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "They're not planning to destroy our colonies, sir. They want to incorporate them into their empire. They think we'll be grateful for their protection." Walker's laugh was bitter. "Of course they do. The Dominion always thinks they know what's best for lesser species." He studied the data again. "How long?" "Based on their current movement patterns, I'd say they'll be in position within 2 weeks. They've already got 30 ships near the mining colony on Beta 5. Beta 5. Walker leaned forward. "That's one of our most productive colonies. Nearly 20% of Earth's titanium comes from there." Miller nodded. "It would be a perfect first target. Take our resources, claim they're managing them for us, and use them to fund their next moves." Just then, another message flashed across Miller's screen. Her heart sank as she read it. "Sir, we just got a notice from the Council. They're advising us to withdraw from the disputed sectors near Dominion space. They say they're concerned about our ability to defend those colonies." "Let me guess," Walker said. "The Dominion suggested this out of concern for our safety." "Got it in one, sir." Walker was quiet for a moment, thinking. Miller could almost see the gears turning in his head. Finally, he spoke. "Send everything you found to Earth Command. Then get me the defensive capabilities of Beta 5. If the Dominion's going to make their first move there, we need to be ready." "Sir," Miller hesitated, "Beta 5 only has 5 ships defending it. The Dominion fleet in that sector is 6 times that size." A small smile appeared on Walker's face. "5 ships is all we need, Miller. The Dominion thinks quantity beats quality. It's time they learned how wrong they are." After the call ended, Miller went back to her data. She pulled up the specs of the human ships stationed at Beta 5. They were small, yes, tiny compared to the Dominion's city-sized warships. But as she reviewed their capabilities, she began to understand Walker's confidence. Sometimes the best weapons were the ones your enemy didn't believe in. She sent the data to Earth Command, then started preparing her next report. The Dominion thought they were being clever, thought they were the hunters. They didn't realize they were walking into a trap. In 2 weeks, they would learn exactly why humans built their ships the way they did. And Miller had a feeling it would be a lesson they wouldn't forget. The mining colony on Beta 5 looked peaceful from orbit. Its dome-covered cities gleamed under the light of 2 distant suns, while transport ships moved steadily between the surface and the orbital stations. Commander Tom Reed watched it all from the bridge of his ship, the Swift Strike, knowing this peace wouldn't last much longer. Dominion ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, his sensor officer reported. 30 vessels detected. Their dreadnought is leading the formation. Reed nodded, his face calm despite the odds. 5 human ships against 30 Dominion warships. The enemy probably thought this would be over in minutes. All ships, battle formation Delta, he ordered. The 5 human vessels moved smoothly into position, spreading out in a loose pattern that would have looked random to most observers. But there was nothing random about it. The massive form of the Dominion dreadnought appeared on their main screen. It was huge, easily 20 times the size of Reed's ship. Behind it, the rest of the Dominion fleet spread out like a wall of metal, their weapons already warming up. "They're broadcasting, sir," the communications officer said, "to all frequencies. Let's hear what they have to say." The deep voice of the Dominion fleet commander filled the bridge. "Attention, human vessels. This is Admiral Crowell of the Dominion Navy. Your presence in this sector is a danger to yourselves and others. We are here to establish proper protection for this colony and its valuable resources." Reed exchanged looks with his bridge crew. They all knew what proper protection meant. Crowell continued, "Your ships are clearly inadequate for defensive duties. You have 1 hour to power down your weapons and prepare for escort to the nearest Dominion base. This is a generous offer. Accept it." Reed opened a channel to the other human ships. "All commanders, status report. Swift Justice, ready. Quick Steel, ready. Fast Thunder, ready. Rapid Fire, ready." Reed allowed himself a small smile. Their ship names had always amused the Dominion. They thought humans were trying to compensate for something. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "they're moving into attack formation. Standard Dominion spread. They're trying to surround us." "Let them," Reed said. "Maintain current positions. Remember your training." The minutes ticked by slowly. On the main screen, the Dominion ships continued their careful movement, trying to box in the human vessels. Their massive ships moved with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. 50 minutes until their deadline. The tactical officer reported. "They've got weapon locks on all our ships." Reed watched the enemy formation carefully. Everything was happening exactly as intelligence had predicted. The Dominion always followed the same tactics: overwhelming force, superior numbers, and predictable patterns. "Sir," the sensor officer's voice was urgent. "Energy spike from the dreadnought. They're powering up their main weapon. Before their own deadline." Reed shook his head. Typical Dominion arrogance. They never could wait to show off their big guns. He pressed a button on his command chair. "All ships, prepare for combat pattern Omega. Let's show them why humans build small." The Dominion dreadnought's weapon ports began to glow with gathered energy. On the command channel, Admiral Crowell's voice boomed again. "Consider this a demonstration of what awaits those who resist Dominion protection. Your minute ships cannot hope to." "Cut that channel," Reed ordered. "All ships, execute Omega on my mark." He watched as the dreadnought's weapon reached full power, aimed directly at his ship. They thought they had the humans trapped. They thought size and numbers would win the day. Reed's smile grew wider. "Mark." As the dreadnought's massive weapon fired, the 5 human ships moved as one. What happened next would be talked about in the Galactic Council for years to come. The breaking point of Beta 5 was about to begin. The massive energy beam from the Dominion dreadnought sliced through space and hit nothing but stars. The 5 human ships had vanished from their positions, moving so fast that the Dominion's targeting systems couldn't track them. "Impossible," Admiral Crowell shouted on the Dominion command ship. "Nothing can move that quickly at sublight speeds." But the impossible was happening right before his eyes. The human vessels reappeared behind his fleet, their small size now a deadly advantage. While his massive ships struggled to turn around, the human vessels danced between them like schools of fish around sleeping whales. On the swift strike, Commander Reed watched his plan unfold. All ships, begin attack pattern Delta 7, he ordered. Show them what these tiny ships can do. The swift strike accelerated at speeds that would have torn apart a larger vessel. The secret wasn't just in their advanced engines. It was in their size. Humans had learned long ago that bigger wasn't always better. Their smaller ships could pull off maneuvers that would rip a Dominion vessel in half. First target locked, Reed's weapons officer reported. Their rear shields are exposed. Fire. A beam of concentrated energy, thin but incredibly focused, shot from the swift strike. It didn't look impressive compared to the Dominion's massive energy weapons. But it didn't need to be big. It just needed to be precise. The beam hit the exact weak point in the Dominion ship's shield geometry, slicing through their defenses like they weren't even there. The huge ship's engines sputtered in and died. One down, Reed said calmly. Move to the next target. Across the battlefield, the other human ships were executing similar attacks. The quick steel rolled and twisted between two Dominion cruisers, its point defense systems easily swatting away their clumsy attempts to hit it. The fast thunder dove straight through their formation, its small size making it nearly impossible to target. Admiral Krell watched in growing horror as his fleet's advantages turned into weaknesses. His ship's massive weapons were useless if they couldn't hit their targets. Their thick armor meant nothing against the humans' precision strikes. Their overwhelming numbers became a problem as they struggled not to hit each other while trying to target the agile human vessels. Sir, his tactical officer shouted, we've lost 6 ships already. Their weapons, they're targeting our power distribution nodes, but those are supposed to be secret. Krell gripped his command chair tightly. The humans hadn't just built small ships. They'd studied their enemies. They knew exactly where to hit to cause the most damage with the least energy. On the swift strike, Reed's crew worked with practiced efficiency. Years of training in their tiny ships were paying off. Their smaller reactors meant they could change power distribution instantly. Their lighter mass let them pull off maneuvers that looked more like fighter craft than warships. Sir, his sensor officer reported, the Dominion fleet is falling into disarray. They're trying to form a defensive sphere, but they're too big to maneuver effectively at close range. Reed nodded. It was a classic Dominion tactic, one that worked well against enemies of similar size. But against the human ships, it just made them easier targets. All ships, he commanded, execute attack pattern Omega-3. Let's end this. The 5 human vessels moved in perfect coordination, weaving through the Dominion formation. Their precise weapons struck again and again, each shot disabling another massive ship. They weren't trying to destroy the Dominion vessels, just teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. In his command chair, Admiral Krell watched as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled by ships he had laughed at just hours before. Now he understood. The humans hadn't built small ships because they were weak. They had built them this way because they were smart. As his own dreadnought's engines died under a precise strike from the swift strike, Krell realized that the galaxy's understanding of space warfare had just changed forever. The age of massive warships was over. The revolution had arrived in 5 small packages. The space around Beta 5 had become a graveyard of powerless Dominion ships. Their massive forms drifted silently, their engines dark, their weapon systems offline. Among them, 5 small human vessels moved with purpose, their mission nearly complete. Status report, Commander Reed called out, watching as another Dominion cruiser's lights flickered and died under the swift strike's precise attack. 23 enemy ships disabled, his tactical officer reported. 7 more are trying to retreat. The dreadnought is completely powerless. There was pride in her voice. Just an hour ago, these same Dominion ships had threatened to destroy them. Reed opened a channel to Admiral Krell's dreadnought. Dominion command vessel. This is Commander Reed. Your ships are disabled. Your weapons are offline. Do you wish to continue this fight? The response took several long moments to come. When it did, Admiral Krell's voice had lost all its earlier arrogance. This is, this is impossible. Those weapons, that speed. How? Not impossible, Reed replied calmly. Just smart engineering. Your ships are built to overwhelm with size and power. Ours are built to be efficient. He paused, letting that sink in. Now about your surrender. On his own powerless bridge, Krall watched a human ship, barely the size of his vessel's command section, gracefully arc past his viewport. He had commanded the most powerful fleet in this sector. He had never lost a battle. Until today. What are your terms? He asked, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. Reed's response was immediate. Power down all remaining weapons. Prepare to be boarded by engineering teams who will verify your compliance. Then you will send a message to your high command, explaining exactly what happened here. You want us to tell them we were defeated by ships you thought were too small to be a threat. Reed finished for him. Yes, that's exactly what I want you to tell them. The galaxy needs to understand something. Humanity didn't build small ships because we had to. We built them this way because it's better. As if to emphasize his point, the quick steel performed a series of tight maneuvers around a disabled Dominion cruiser, scanning it for any signs of resistance. The huge ship would have needed kilometers of space to perform the same turns that the human vessel managed in seconds. Sir, Reed's communications officer interrupted. We're getting signals from the colony. They're cheering. The mining platforms are all broadcasting victory celebrations. Reed allowed himself a small smile. The colonists had watched the whole battle. They had seen 5 tiny human ships defeat a fleet 6 times their number. It would make a good story to tell their children. Commander, Krall's voice came back, subdued. We accept your terms. Sending shutdown codes now. Over the next hour, human engineering teams boarded the Dominion vessels. They found crews in shock, many still unable to believe what had happened. The mighty Dominion fleet, defeated by ships they had mocked just days ago. Admiral Walker contacted Reed as the last engineering team reported in. Well done, Commander. How are our ships? Minimal damage, sir, Reed reported. Their weapons were powerful but slow. They couldn't hit what they couldn't catch. And the Dominion crews, still in a state of shock. I don't think they'll be underestimating human engineering anymore. Walker's smile was visible even through the comm screen. Good. The Council needs to understand this too. Size isn't everything. Efficiency, precision, and smart design beat brute force every time. As Reed ended the call, he looked out at the scene before him. The massive Dominion ships, now humbled and silent. The 5 human vessels, still moving smoothly between them like sharks among sleeping whales. A new age of space warfare had begun. And it had started because someone had forgotten a simple truth. It's not the size of the ship in the fight, but the intelligence of its design that matters. The council chamber was silent as the battle recording played on the massive screen. The gathered representatives watched in stunned amazement as 5 human ships systematically disabled a Dominion fleet 6 times their size. When the recording ended, the silence continued for several long moments. Admiral Walker stood calmly at the center of the chamber, hands clasped behind his back. It was the same spot where, just months ago, they had laughed at his tiny fleet. No one was laughing now. Speaker Bay was the first to find her voice. This recording, it's genuine, unedited, completely genuine, Walker replied. Verified by 3 independent sources, including the Dominion's own ship logs. A murmur ran through the chamber. The plant people of the green worlds were waving their leaf-covered arms in excitement. The crystalline beings of the star core were glowing brighter than usual. Even the usually stoic rock clan representatives were showing cracks in their stone faces. But how? One of the Dominion representatives demanded. He had replaced Krall after the battle. Our ships are the largest, the most powerful. And that's exactly why they failed. Walker interrupted. Your ships are so big that they can't dodge simple attacks. They need so much power that they can't adapt quickly. They're impressive to look at, but they're just not practical. He gestured to a hologram of a human ship that appeared beside him. We built our ships small because it makes them better. They use less power, so they can put more energy into weapons and shields. They're lighter, so they can move faster. They're smaller targets, harder to hit. Everything about them is designed to be efficient. This changes everything, Speaker Bay said softly. Our entire understanding of space warfare needs to be updated. Walker finished. Size isn't everything. Better engineering beats bigger guns every time. The news was already spreading beyond the council chamber. On thousands of worlds, people watched recordings of the Battle of Beta 5. They saw how the tiny human ships danced through the Dominion formation. They saw how precision and skill beat raw power. In military academies across the galaxy, instructors scrambled to update their lessons. Shipyards began drawing up new designs, smaller and more efficient. The age of giant warships was ending. Even the Dominion was changing. Their shipyards were quiet now, their massive ship designs put on hold. Instead, their engineers were studying everything they could learn about human ship design. The Council has reviewed Earth's petition for membership, Speaker Bay announced, her silver skin gleaming. In light of recent events, we believe our earlier decision was hasty. Walker kept his face neutral, but inside he was smiling. Earth appreciates the Council's reconsideration. There's more, Bay continued. Several Council races have expressed interest in learning from human ship designers. They're particularly interested in your, what did you call it? Smart engineering. Earth would be happy to share our knowledge, Walker replied. With proper agreements in place, of course. The chamber erupted in excited discussion. Representatives from a dozen worlds crowded forward, eager to be first in line for human technology exchanges. Later, in a quiet corridor, Speaker Bay stopped Walker. I owe you an apology, Admiral. We all do. We were so focused on size and power that we missed what really matters. Walker smiled. It's a common mistake. Sometimes the best solutions come in small packages. Indeed, Bay's silver skin rippled with emotion. The galaxy will be different now, thanks to your tiny fleet. The Dominion's power is broken, their arrogance shattered. And it all happened because they underestimated humanity. As Walker walked back to his ship, he passed a group of alien cadets studying the Battle of Beta 5 recording. They were pointing excitedly at the human ships, admiring their speed and precision. The message had spread. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and humanity's place among the stars was finally secure, thanks to 5 small ships that could. 1 year after the Battle of Beta 5, the galactic landscape had changed dramatically. The grand shipyards of a dozen worlds were busy building vessels of a new kind, smaller, faster, smarter. In orbit around Earth, representatives from across the galaxy gathered for the signing of the Human Council Accord. Admiral Walker stood at the ceremony podium, looking out at the assembled fleet. Ships of all races floated together, and for the first time in galactic history, size didn't matter. Next to the remaining Dominion dreadnoughts, now commanded by more reasonable leaders, floated the sleek new vessels built with human engineering principles. Today marks more than just Earth joining the Council, Walker said to the gathered delegates. It marks a new understanding of what makes a fleet strong. It's not about how big your ships are. It's about how smart you are with the space you have. In the audience, Commander Reed sat next to Intelligence Officer Miller. They watched as Speaker Bay stepped forward to sign the accord, her silver skin glowing with genuine warmth. Hard to believe it was just a year ago. They were laughing at our ships, Miller whispered. Reed smiled. Nothing teaches better than experience, and we gave them quite a lesson. The accord wasn't just about council membership. It included technology sharing agreements, joint training programs, and new standards for ship design. Earth had become the center of a revolution in space warfare, all because they had dared to think differently. Even the Dominion had changed. Their new representative, a younger and humbler leader than Kral had been, signed agreements to reduce the size of their fleet and adopt more efficient designs. Their remaining dreadnoughts would serve as reminders of the old way of thinking. After the ceremony, Walker visited the Space Academy, where young officers from all species trained together. In one classroom, a small alien cadet raised their hand. "Admiral," the young cadet asked, "why did humans build such small ships when everyone else was building bigger ones?" Walker looked out the classroom window at the stars. "Because humans learned something important early in our history," he replied. "We learned that bigger isn't always better. That efficiency beats excess. That brain beats brawn." He pointed to a training simulation showing the Battle of Beta 5. "Look at how our ships move. Every system is perfectly balanced. No wasted space, no wasted power. We built small because it made us think carefully about every choice, every design, every system." The cadet nodded thoughtfully, like the old Earth saying, "Necessity is the mother of invention." Walker smiled. "Exactly. But in our case, it wasn't necessity. We chose to build small ships because it was smarter, not because we had to. And that choice changed the galaxy." Later that day, Walker stood in his office on the Swift Justice, looking at a model of his ship next to a model of an old Dominion dreadnought. The size difference was still striking, but now it told a different story. His computer beeped with a message from Earth Command. New ship designs were ready for review. Even smaller, even more efficient than before. The revolution wasn't over. It was just beginning. In the Beta 5 colony, now a thriving hub of galactic trade, a monument had been built. It showed 5 small human ships facing down a fleet of massive Dominion vessels. The plaque beneath it bore a simple message. Size is nothing compared to skill. Power means less than precision. For in the vast dark of space, the smartest ship, not the biggest, will always win the race. As Walker read reports of more worlds adopting human design principles, he thought about how far they'd come. The galaxy had learned that true strength didn't come from size or power. It came from smart design, efficient systems, and the courage to think differently. The tiny fleet had changed everything, and the galaxy was better for it.